Now that those Queensland land tax changes have gone the way of the dodo, they're extinct, they're not going to come into force, what does that mean for the Queensland property market? Well, that's exactly what we're going to cover in this episode. Hi, my name is Nero from Investment Rise. I'm a buyer's agent, and I really want to look at, well, with the change of sentiment that's now come through as a result of those Queensland land tax changes being revoked, what does it mean for the Queensland property market? Does that mean though that rents are going to fall? No. Okay. In fact, right now in Queensland, approximately 1/3 of the entire Queensland state population are tenants. They're renting right now. Okay. So let's look at some numbers. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, the Queensland population as at March 2022 was 5.3 million. Now, with the rate of migration into Queensland, it's probably higher now as I record this episode, but let's stick with 5.3 million, okay? So if we say now roughly 1/3 are people who are renting, that means that 1.77 million people are renting, okay? Now, how many houses does that translate into? Well, again, if we look at the Australian Bureau of Statistics, it shows us that in Queensland, the average household size is 2.5 people per house. So therefore, if we take 1.77 million divided by 2.5, we end up with a figure of 708,000 houses that's needed for tenants. Okay? And when I say houses, I am talking about properties in general, units, townhouses, everything. We need 708,000 properties for the rental market in Queensland. Now, currently, the entire state of Queensland has approximately 5,000 properties advertised for rent right now. But here's the thing, most of those are not actually available for rent. They're just advertisements online where the real estate agents haven't yet removed the listings because they've already been rented. Okay, so therefore there is a massive shortage. Then we hear the Queensland government, well, they're going to come out and fix the problem apparently. I mean, they're going to fix the problem by building another 5,600 houses by 2027. That's on top of their 6,365 properties that they're promised to be built by 2025. So in total, 12,000 properties. Yeah, okay, that might sound really, really good and it probably makes great headlines. But again, if you just look at the data, it shows that it's nowhere near enough, okay? Because according to Queensland State Council of Social Services, they say that there are 46,000 people on the government's waiting list. Now again, if we divide 46,000 by 2.5, we very quickly work out that we need 18,400 properties just to fill the demand for people needing properties right now. And so the government is promising around about 12,000 homes, but 6,365 are only coming by 2025, and the other 5,600 by 2027. That's 3 years and 5 years from now. And by then, the government is going to be further behind, right? Because there's going to be more people who are going to have moved into Queensland, and there's going to be more people needing rental accommodation. So what does all this mean for you as a property investor? The data shows that rents are rising and they're going to keep rising for some time yet. So if you're looking for an area that's going to give you really strong yields, especially in this environment of rising interest rates, the Queensland property market definitely has some opportunities. But what about capital growth, I hear you say? Hi, it's Nero here, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to take a quick minute to ask, are you enjoying this video? If you are, would you mind then hitting the like button? And if you want more content like this, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos, because I aim to release 1 to 2 videos every single week. Now, let's get back to the video. Well, let's go back to the fundamentals. Capital growth is a function of supply and demand. When demand is sustainably higher than supply, you can expect property prices to rise. Okay, and now remember, when we talk about demand here, we're talking about demand from owner-occupiers. Now obviously that's going to be driven by population growth. So have a look at this article. Aussies flocked to Queensland at fastest pace in 20 years. Queensland's status as Australia's population magnet has been strengthened by the COVID-19 pandemic, with annual net interstate migration for the Sunshine State at its highest level in almost 20 years. The article then goes on to talk about the impact of lockdowns, etc. But check out these numbers. Queensland secured more than 90% of net interstate migration in the year to June 2021. The net 30,939 people who moved to Queensland dwarfed all other states and territories, with the nearest rival being Western Australia at 4,592. Okay, so that's what, roughly 15% of what Queensland got. All right, and this chart shows it quite dramatically. Now, of course, you might be thinking, yeah, but Nero, that's because of the lockdowns. Now that all that's finished and the overseas borders are opening up, etc., is Queensland still going to get some massive migration? Well, have a look at this. More than 200,000 people could move to Queensland over the next 5 years, Property Council survey finds. About 220,000 people are tipped to leave the southern states for Queensland over the next 5 years, a survey from the Property Council of Australia, PCA, has revealed. The potential influx has the industry body so alarmed they are calling on the state government to take urgent action to combat Queensland's housing shortage. And that article is only talking about interstate migration. What about overseas migration? Even though a lot of people are going to migrate to Sydney and Melbourne initially, when they see the prices of property, when they see the lifestyle opportunities that are available in other states, you're going to see that people are going to move, and that's what's going to drive a lot of this interstate migration back into Queensland. And the thing is that if the government, as I said earlier on, isn't building enough houses, I mean, they're already predicting only building, roughly 12,000 houses, but that's over the next 5 years, and there's a shortage right now. And now you've got more people moving into Queensland. That means that demand is going to keep staying higher than supply, all right? And add to the fact that construction costs have increased so dramatically, and there have been so many builders who've unfortunately gone broke that it is almost impossible for there to be enough new properties built across Queensland to meet the rapid demand. And so what does that mean? Well, if demand is higher than supply, then it points to property prices rising. Now, of course, this is not going to apply to all areas. Okay, certain markets are at their peak. For example, I think the Sunshine Coast is one market that has performed extremely well, but it's not going to perform so well going forwards, not because I think it's going to dramatically drop or anything. I think that market's going to take a bit of a breather. It's going to consolidate before then beginning its next growth phase. But what about the impact of rising interest rates? We're seeing it bite in Sydney and Melbourne. And what about Brisbane, especially Queensland? Okay, isn't it going to have an impact there as well? Well, have a look at this chart here. Okay, again, this is from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and what it shows is average weekly ordinary time earnings for adults. Okay, and if we look in New South Wales, the average income is $1,790 per week. In Victoria, it's $1,750.70 per week, but in Queensland, it's just $1,705.10. So what's the difference? Let's compare New South Wales to Queensland. What's the difference between Queensland at 1,705 and New South Wales at 1,790? It's less than 10%, right? So there's a less than 10% differential in average weekly income between Queensland and New South Wales. But how big a difference is there in property prices? Well, if we just take Brisbane and Sydney, right? Brisbane house prices are sitting at still less than $800,000, 700 and something, depending which report you read. But Sydney prices are sitting at still well over 1.5 million, right? So there's like an 80% difference in property prices, but a less than 10% difference in income. So therefore, what does that mean? It means that property prices are still far more affordable for people living in Queensland. That's why I don't think you're going to see interest rates have anywhere near as much of a negative impact in Queensland than in New South Wales. Now, of course, in certain more expensive pockets, especially around Brisbane, it will, purely because those prices are higher. But generally speaking, it's not going to have as big an impact. And so especially those median price suburbs around certain parts of Brisbane are going to do very well, but also regional markets, okay? Have a look at this. So this is housing data produced by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. And what you can see here is this blue line here, okay? This is Sydney's property prices, and you can see that it has started to fall somewhere from the beginning of Q1 in 2022, and we know it's continued to fall. This data is as at 2022, the end of Q2, so June 30, okay? So Sydney house prices are falling, yes. Canberra house prices are falling. Melbourne is falling, and quite sharply, and as I've said in the past, I think it's going to continue for a number of other reasons, okay? Brisbane is actually holding steady, and we've seen some months where it's dropped, some months where it's rising, which is talking about, remember, the aggregate Brisbane data. I think some pockets are still doing very, very well, but we're seeing Brisbane hold strong. Hobart is dropping. Adelaide has been on the march, and I still think that there are many areas around Adelaide that are very, very strong, and you'll really struggle to find a property and get a property. There's just such a shortage of stock, okay? Darwin on the slight decline, and Perth, well, sort of holding flat, really, okay? But now watch what happens if I go to look at rest of state. So now I'm going to look at regional markets here. And again, I'm looking at established housing here, okay? So freestanding houses, okay? So we can see here New South Wales, the rest of New South Wales. Again, this isn't individual regional areas. It's all of regional New South Wales is declining. Regional Victoria is declining. But look at regional Queensland. It has been increasing month on month. And mind you, this is aggregate data. So this is taking all the regional areas. Now we know, for example, that, as I said, Sunshine Coast and certain more expensive pockets around the Gold Coast, for example, they're falling right now. And yet the data clearly shows that there are many regional markets that are doing extremely well. And right now I'm buying for a lot of our clients in regional Queensland, especially at price points under $500,000. Under $450,000, even under $400,000, where the rental yields are very, very strong, and there's some really strong capital growth fundamentals. But here's the thing, I don't think those price points are going to be available this time next year. If the capital growth projections come true, the opportunity to get something under $500,000 with really good capital growth potential, it's now and in the coming few months. And that's what I really want to show you. The data is showing us that there are areas where property prices are rising. And right now could be a great opportunity for you to take advantage of that. Hi, it's Nero here again, and thanks so much for watching. If you like what you saw and you're looking for a proven recipe, a blueprint on how to build a property portfolio that gives you passive income, then click the link below this video and get a copy of my book, Wake Up Wealthier, How to Build a Property Portfolio that pays you an income each and every month. Okay, when you click the link and you download your book, you can get both the digital version and the audio version in case you don't like reading. All right, so I used to sell this book for $49, but right now I'm making it totally free. Why? Because I want more people to get this information, and I know that a segment of you will then like what you see in the book and choose to reach out to find